All right, welcome back to Late Night Lately. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier late night podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Listen, I missed last week's episode. We have some news to talk about, so let's get to this monologue. Dominion Voting Systems settled its lawsuit against Fox News, bringing in a record $787 million in damages, but no formal televised apology has to be given by Fox News anchors, which is fine because the only way any of those people know how to give an apology is by leaving too little cash on a dresser and asking if Dominion needs a ride back to school. Now, I understand that that joke was way out of line, way out of character. It was the only punchline I could come up with. Please don't be mad. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell returned to the Senate after a fall required him to miss 40 days. The only reason he was gone for so long was because, like a tortoise, he had trouble rolling off the tip of his shell onto his feet. I messed up some wording there. 89-year-old Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein has reportedly not been present for 4 months of judiciary meetings due to health problems, most recently being diagnosed with shingles in February. Now, Democratic senators and organizations are calling for her to resign in order for them to nominate a replacement. And judging by the track record of those in our government, I highly expect a sexy, hot 81-year-old to join the ranks. SpaceX celebrated a test launch of a rocket this past Thursday, during which the rocket blew up after 4 minutes of flight. For $3 billion, you expect this thing to last longer. Couple that with exploding Teslas. How is it that the only thing Elon Musk is successful in doing with explosions is impregnating women who want nothing to do with him? Yeah, I ad-libbed on that one a little bit because I thought it would be funnier, and it was. Apple opened its first Apple store in Mumbai, India this week. The plus side is iPhones made by the small hands of Chinese children won't have to be shipped as far. All right, that's the end of the monologue. Welcome back to Late Night Lately, episode 8. That was the best monologue delivery I've done thus far. Like I said, I mentioned in the before the monologue, I missed a week. I was gonna do one, and then I forgot to, and then I just took a week off, and now we're here at this doing whatever I need to do. Anyway, let's talk about what has been happening, what's going on in the late night world. Well, for the Daily Show, we've had 2 guest hosts for the past 2 weeks, both Daily Show alumnus that currently work on the Daily Show, both correspondents, rather, is what I should say. Roy Wood Jr. and Jordan Klepper were able to host the Daily Show for the weeks. They both did very well, very admirable. It was great to see both of those guys really take over and shine. I think, you know, a lot has been said, rather, in terms of who should take over the desk, and I specifically recall seeing people say Roy Wood Jr. should be the one to do it, and during the week that he was hosting. And while I don't disagree, we shouldn't jump the gun and things like this. I think Roy Wood Jr. was so good. He had interviews with people like Cory Booker. He still hosted a podcast called Beyond the Scenes. He let's see, what else was there? He even brought in Jordan Klepper to do a segment, and it was it was great. And Desi was there too. It's just amazing to see how the correspondents have really come into their own, and they're able to take over the show. And that really, and then even this week to see Klepper, who has already had a Comedy Central show in the opposition. He's a great host, great personality, and it's good to see that this show is able to really foster their talents. I know it sounds a little bit cliche to say, but really foster their talents in terms of the hosts who excuse me, not the host, but the people in front of the camera who don't typically get the same spotlight as the regular host would, which leads me to believe, leads me to think, you know, if Desi and Roy Wood Jr., if the rumor is that Desi and Roy are going to, or the rumor at least this past fall, was that the two of them were going to host at the same time, co-host together. Wouldn't it be nice? And then a couple of weeks ago, I read an article, or I talked about an article rather, that said, or so at this point, the last episode talked about an article that said, shouldn't they do guest hosts all the time? I want to posit another theory. What if they were able to, the Daily Show was able to just take the correspondence and let everybody rotate through? So 1 week it's Michael Costa, 1 week it's Dulce Sloan, one Ronnie Chang. Like, what? I wonder if that would also be. I truly anything to spice up the person behind the seat, like any type of late night show. I think that's for all intents and purposes, with having James Corden. I know people don't really typically particularly like him. I don't know if you heard my stomach growl, but it really just growled. But he changed the way. If Jimmy Kimmel, okay, so Carson really perfected late night. Letterman allowed late night to be more strange at a time where it wasn't, a little bit more comedic at a time where it wasn't as comedic. Conan really brought fun back into late night. Kimmel brought late night to the internet. Jimmy Fallon honed the late night internet crowd, and Corden really, for a split second, perfected it, thanks to his pieces like Carpool Karaoke and things of that nature. I think the Daily Show could be the thing that really spices things up in terms of having people correspondents be the hosts and really show that, hey, these are the talents we have. Look at SNL. SNL doesn't have one good person. They have many good people. They've got the Please Don't Destroy guys. They've got Keenan. They've got the Weekend Update guys. Who was I going to say? I was going to say Melissa Villaseñor, but she's no longer on the show. And after that, I was going to be like Cecily Strong. She's no longer on the show. They've got Ego Wodum. They got Bowen Yang. So everybody's allowed to shine. Wouldn't that make sense to have the correspondents be able to do the same thing? And I don't know. I think I like the guest host idea more, bringing in people for a week at a time. I think that's much better than having the correspondence. But I really think the correspondence only would be such a funny thing. Like, look at the show. It's like giving side actors their own TV shows. Look at, I understand the show was canceled, and I actually stopped watching it myself, but Schooled is a spinoff of The Goldbergs, and The Goldbergs is a great show full of character actors who get leading shots, and then and then also it's still filled with character actors. And then Schooled, the spinoff, set 10 years later, is still the side characters getting a chance. The side characters to the side characters starring in their leading roles. Even though I think Brian Callen was definitely canceled. Anyway, I do think that could be a viable option for them as well. The Daily Show should go without a regular host. Now that I think about it more. And quite frankly, I think The Daily Show might be the most consistent in terms of late night. Right now, at this point in time, I think it is the most consistent. Because even with these guest hosts, I'm enjoying it more than every other late night show, save for, Seth. What other clips I want to talk about? Let's see. I muted it this time. I pulled up a video. These are a lot of these clips. Some of these clips are from 2 weeks ago. So, but there was a joke about a dusty cue card that Seth joked about in a closer look, and he had his cue card guy Wally blow it off. I'm scanning. If you're looking at me watching the video, I'm scanning through and I'm trying to find my words, but I'm scanning through looking for the dusty cue card. And I don't really necessarily need it. Anyway, So there's that. And then I accidentally closed down Squarespace. And then Jon Stewart came back to the Daily Show during Roy Wood Jr.'s time, and it was people really typically enjoyed that. And he was like Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was a very funny thing. Jordan Klepper went to during Roy Wood Jr.'s time at the Daily Show, or time during his week. Jordan Klepper met with George Santos at Trump's arraignment, and that was a very funny, just the way how brazen that Jordan Klepper, or really anybody on the Daily Show, can be. Like if you look at Jon Stewart's interview with that Republican senator gun advocate, just how brazen they can be when it comes to questioning. And it seems like, it's like having the best of both worlds, having the credibility of a CNN or an MSNBC, but then also being able to say something incredibly stupid and funny. During Klepper's week, Klepper talked to, this is the wrong video. Klepper spoke with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is a New York congresswoman who I do have a crush on. That's not a joke at all. I'm trying to find the right link to this. And they went to... Oops. They went to, they talked about Trump, Clarence Thomas, ending violence, and they went to the Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx to have that discussion, where Klepper was sweating through his shirt profusely. Then Seth Meyers stopped by the Late Late Show. That's right. They're allowed to do that. They used to not be able to, but they stopped by Late Late Show, where comedians like Will Hines and Reggie Watts, who's on the show. Who else is there? Will Hines and a couple other people. They played crew members of the Late Late Show, which is ending next week, I believe, and that were begging Seth for jobs. That was a very funny bit. I really, really enjoyed that one. It was very funny. And then finally, Jimmy Fallon had to deal with people saving face when it comes to he made a reference to the SpaceX rocket blowing up and how they said it was a deliberate explosion or something like that. Hold on, what did they call it? They called it I'm going to look for it, rapid unscheduled disassembly. And so Tariq Trotter and Michael Posner and Steve Higgins, the first two from The Roots, the latter is Steve Higgins from SNL / the sidekick to Jimmy Fallon. And producer and writer, whatever. Anyway, they all try to do things like that. Try to speak like that. Anyway, that's all the funny stuff that happened for the week. Now I will say this. So Seth was off this week, so I can't comment on him. But I would say this past week, in terms of late night, the guests were missing something. Like there weren't any outstanding guests. Now, let's pretend the Late Late Show is not ending, and they did manage to get people like Lisa Kudrow and Billy Porter and John Legend and Seth and things of that nature. But however, looking at Kimmel's group of people this week, and it's not to say like everybody that was on this week was bad. I'm just saying that it was just lacking. It was better on Kimmel. Kimmel was better because he had Bridget Everett and Patrick Stewart. But it's just sometimes I watch the monologue and then I go, who's coming up? Okay, I'm good. I'll go, oh, Bill Hader. I'll watch that. Anyway. But in particular, the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, just the group of people they had this week. He had Jenna Friedman. I talked to her years ago. Look at that. I like Jennifer Friedman. Jennifer Friedman. Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux were the standouts, but I mean, then if you just look at the week, it just wasn't that good of a week for people. I feel like people were on vacation. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Obviously, not everybody does say that. Now, the thing I want to talk about this week, this comes from Variety, written by Brian Steinberg. Night Jitters, TV's late TV crowd grapples with weakness in the wee hours. So as we know, there have been just waning numbers when it comes to late night. Late night just hasn't had the type of ratings that it typically used to have, and I mean that just comes from things with the internet and everything popping up and streaming and everything, and it's just easier to watch clips online, to just watch the monologue that you want to watch, or the carpool karaoke that you want to watch, or the interview that you just want to watch, as opposed to having to sit through 42 minutes of a show. Kids, this person that Brian writes about, Maddie Luke, 26-year-old person in New York, they just follow the socials. They'll find an interview if they're interested in the guest. They want to watch something. They want to watch the dramas. They want to watch the comedy shows, but they're not really looking for late night, because those things can be easily broken down into monologue, interview, bit, music, comedy, stand-up. In 2018, 7 late night programs, NBC's Tonight and Late Night, CBS's Late Show, Late Late Show, ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live, Comedy Central's Daily Show, NBC's Saturday Night Live. I don't know why we include Saturday Night Live in that. I understand that there is Weekend Update, but with Saturday Night Live being considered by the Emmys for a variety sketch series, I don't think that at any point that we should go, the 7 minutes that they do for Weekend Update should be considered along the same veins of Late Night and Daily Show and Late Show and things of that nature. But apparently those shows drew in more than $698 million in advertising in 2018, according to Vivix, a tracker of ad spending. But by 2022, the total came to $412.7 million, which is a drop of 41% over 5 years. It's it's tough. Streaming and the internet have really affected whether or not these shows are really succeeding when it comes to these numbers. There's so many different measurements now. There's live plus same day, live plus 3 day, live plus 7. Then they have to include the internet. YouTube clips. They have to include who's talking about it on Twitter using hashtags, who's responding to tweets, who's tagging in TikToks, who's watching the TikToks. And it's all different types of things that they can try to spin into usable numbers for ultimately advertisers. It doesn't matter for the viewers. It's all for the advertisers. Which is something I thought about today when watching the Tonight Show, when Fallon, it was the episode with I guess I should pull it up because I genuinely forgot what it was. Let me just type in Tonight Show. The most recent episode was with Zoe Lister-Jones and Ray Romano, but this is something I've noticed before. When Fallon, they typically follow a format. They go monologue, and then they go interview, game, music, or comedy, and then they end the show. What I've noticed rather in recent years is that they'll go monologue, bit thing, like hashtag Friday or hashtag Thursday or whatever it's called, or you tweet, we tweet, just whatever stupid things going on, and then they'll do game, and then they'll do interview, and my thinking to that is what they're suggesting is people here. I have two ways to think about this. Either people will stay, like if you're staying up late. And you're watching it live, or you're watching it on your DVR, like how I do. People will go, okay, I want to see the monologue. Oh, he's talking to Ray Romano. I want to stay on to watch that, and then we'll go deeper into the episode, and then that counts as views. After a certain amount of time, that counts as you viewing the show. And so now I'm going to watch the Ray Romano interview, and then I could be done after the fact. But at that point, I've watched the monologue, I've watched the theme song, I've watched the game, I've watched the bit part, I've watched the first interview if I'm going to the second interview, or if I'm watching the first interview, and then that counts as the full viewing. I mean, that's one idea, and then the other idea is that so that retention is the first idea. Then the second idea is maybe people want to see the game first. Maybe they want to see hashtag Fridays. I don't know what it's called. Hashtags. Maybe people want to see that. I couldn't tell you. I watched Michelle Obama was on this week as well, and I watched the episode obviously on my DVR or YouTube TV rather, but I don't remember if he did a bit part or just brought her out. Oh yeah, he did, because he did the bookstore surprise. That's right. I remember watching that. But regardless, all I'm saying is that these numbers are important for them. All late night shows have made themselves more alluring to advertisers by offering product placements or even segments during which most of the hosts shout out a sponsor. I've seen it on Late Night. I've seen it on Tonight Show. But, quote, viewers are seeking out and finding their cut down highlights or moments rather than making the live episode appointment viewing, says David Setterbaum, Executive Vice President and Head of Video Investment at Dentsu Media US. NBC's gotten out of practice of programming a show for 1:30 a.m. Comedy Central's portfolio of wee hours programming has been cut. Daily Show is the last remaining bastion of that. CBS is reportedly going to cancel Late Late Show, and they're going to do At Midnight. Others had also been wary of doing that. Not everybody is. Advertisers are fickle, and that's why they have to keep doing upfronts, because advertisers will go like, hey, like Samsung will go, hey, I want to advertise. Let's see if we get, or no, excuse me. Let's see, like a network would be like, we see a lot of people who like to buy tech. Samsung, please advertise with us, and this is what you'll get. You can advertise on during an episode of Young Sheldon. If Paramount wants that, and like, hey, you can advertise on an episode of Young Sheldon, and we get 10 million viewers, if that. We get 10 million viewers, and they're dedicated week to week, and blah 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 during a new episode, and you're going to be able to get the most eyes on your new Galaxy devices. Anyway. When Conan O'Brien arrived at TBS in 2010, it was seen as a bid to compete more directly with the cable network's broadcast rivals, but Warner Bros. Discovery, TBS's new corporate parent, has made no move to find a replacement since O'Brien departed in 2021. They even canceled Samantha Bee's show, which was weekly. Netflix stopped doing late night shows. Apple runs a show with Jon Stewart, but any buzz around it has been minimal. The result, perhaps, of trying to run a series of this sort without the ability to promote it to a big audience, turning in regularly to primetime or daytime schedules. NBCU has tested a show led by Amber Ruffin for Peacock, but is producing fewer episodes as she works on a comedy pilot. This ratings are going down time over time. And you're just essentially fighting for scraps at this point. We've got a closer look from Seth Meyers' team over at Late Night. That's just a segment after the monologue, typically twice a week, 2 or 3 times a week. That often gets released on YouTube at 8 p.m., 8 or 9 p.m., 7 p.m. sometimes, even when the show was shot at 4 or 5. And then you'll see new clips from that episode roll in the following morning. Let's see. He talks about how Corrections, which is a great late night product, which is an online only segment, is on there every Thursday, and it's very heavy with inside jokes. And you see people, essentially what he's getting at is you see hosts trying to get their own other versions of content, because it's easy to get if you have a dedicated not factory. If you have a dedicated contingent, a base of people who are continually watch things like the corrections videos from Seth Meyers, they're never going to get more than 300,000 views. But that's because it's people that watch it. You know, if it does get a million, it's the people that watch it over and over again because they're fans of that. Colbert had a pickleball tournament on CBS. Shows like from NBC called That's My Jam. You know, Password. They've Carpool Karaoke does well on Apple TV. There's still an appeal. Kal Penn really wants to host a daily show. People are coming to host a daily show because it's an institution. And every single night you have to find something new. Conan, I know he talks about that a lot, is like finding something new was hard and the early years were tough. And even if you look at his later years, the things that they had to do or deal with or put up with, getting episodes, not numbers, runtime cut down or having to do an episode advertising. It's tough. It was easier back in the days of Carson. But now we're seeing Letterman, we're seeing Carson's YouTube channels upload videos. We're like Daily Show. When Jon Stewart left, and when David Letterman left, their shows were finally able to enter the digital age. And now we're getting Letterman uploading videos every single day, essentially. Conan too. And there are different versions of the shows, of late night shows. National Geographic has one with Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I assume is still going, and I don't know why people are watching that. CMT hired comedian Josh Wolf in 2015 to try his hand at a Wednesday to Saturday show that would examine country music notables. MTV tested Middle of the Night show. I've never heard of that. A series that forced a celebrity to host a late night program on the spot from his or her home. Okay. That's a funny idea. That's a very funny idea. I like that a lot. And I think that they should bring that back. Middle of the Night show. That's very, very funny. But knowing them, it's probably like Snooki and yeah, okay, all right. Well, it's got some people I know by name. They have one clip. Jordan Sparks, The Miz, Flula Borg, Adam Pally, okay, Waka Flocka, and then Anthony Anderson, and then like several people I don't know. Well, not several, just a couple of people. I truly don't know. And one guy who might be a sex addict, Thomas Middleditch. He admitted it. He had a beautiful wife. I don't know how he would want an open relationship. And then go to a sex club in LA. He admitted it. It was a big story. All right. There's a changing tide, obviously, and with a lot of late night shows that have turned to politics too, especially with Trump and everything. And I think that kind of splintered people from watching, Kimmel, especially because he's a guy that's so vocal. How vocal is he? He's a guy, but he was so vocal, especially for like healthcare for his son Billy, and rights and everything. It was, and he definitely attacks people head on, as opposed to, and like him and like John Oliver, as opposed to people like Colbert and Fallon, who just kind of play the field and everything. And we've got Fox News having Gutfeld, and that show is apparently doing the best out of all the late night shows. But that's more of a political show. Anyway, there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of, not even nuance. And quite frankly, it's just a lot of numbers behind it that I think all points back to people not watching linear TV anymore. Apparently, People behind the scenes estimate that CBS reboot of At Midnight will cost millions of dollars less per year to produce. But it's not as, it's not as if, the Late Late Show had the most money in the first place. If anything, okay. So here's the difference between the Late Late Show and At Midnight. Late Late Show, they would do things like go to Britain and or shut down Hollywood Boulevard, and they'll do like a whole dance number, whatever, what have you, big things. But oftentimes it was just a small show in a studio that they really just had to, like a bottle episode every night, just like they had to deal with what was in there. And probably not pay people well, going back to the writers. And then if you going back to an episode of a different show that I recorded about 28 minutes ago. But then if you take At Midnight, what that show was a panel of comedians in front of a small crowd looking at the day's internet interactions. Which would now, I think, is like, if At Midnight was like the Twitter show, then At Midnight back then was a Twitter show, then this version is going to be At Midnight, the TikTok show. I don't really think you can really compare it. There's a lot of daytime talk in this article, and I don't think you can compare daytime with late night, because it's a different crowd. Like the same people, like they're not the same people. The people watching it aren't the same people. Audience is completely different. I would say that the daytime is more like with Today's Show, Good Morning America, CBS Mornings, all shows I watch, not Good Morning America. I don't really like that show, but because I think the hosts aren't friends. I think that's a very big. I think GMA might be number 2 in the ratings, but I go more towards CBS Mornings and Today's Show, because I feel like those people gel with each other, and Good Morning America has so many different featured hosts that it's never the same 2 days in a row, and I don't think they like know each other beyond their names. And it just seems so forced and fake. That being said, Today's Show is the only one I think that actually has genuine people that, hang out outside of work together. But the people who watch morning shows are typically going to be more women, or daytime shows rather. So let's include The Talk and The View. So that's going to be more women centric, as opposed to, and that might be like, let's say 24 to 42. I don't know the age ranges. Because you hear about the 18 to 36 age range, or 18 to 32 age range, the coveted range. But then I would say late night is geared towards more younger people, so 18 and to the 32 range, 18 to 36, and I would say it's more male centric, especially when it comes to the host. How about this? Are late night shows able to be reinvented in the middle of their runs? Let's go back to the Late Show. Let's go back to the Late Show. Tonight Show, Late Show. Let's go back to Late Show with Seth Meyers. Seth, when he started the show, he would deliver the monologue by standing up, looked uncomfortable. And then eventually, a year or however many months in, he sat down, and it just became a much better show. It was just like he was able to do a lot more things by sitting down, oddly enough. And then the pandemic hits. He was wearing suits, and now he's not wearing suits, and now he's the loosest late night show host ever, and he's doing all these great things. I would say, even as small as it appears to be, Late Show reinvented itself, and it might not have the most money. They might not do any stunts at all, but which you don't need for late night, but it is funnier. I think it's the funniest show, that and then The Daily Show, when compared to the likes of The Late Show and The Late Late Show and Tonight Show. Did I say Late Show with Seth Meyers? Late Night. I don't remember. But now we have The Daily Show, which with Jon Stewart was a completely different show, and with Trevor Noah is the show it is we know now. And I think it is better with Trevor Noah, because we got the outside perspective, the person from That's what CBS tried to do with James Corden, and I think later on it failed. It kind of backfired on them for these past couple of years. But with Trevor Noah, we got this outside perspective, someone who's a person of color from Africa, who's able to comment on American things and relate it back to his world that he came from. Versus, and I'm not saying Jon Stewart, I'm not comparing how funny they are or anything, but Jon Stewart, we needed him at a time where America was a little bit more gray, gray in terms of, the different types of political things. It wasn't so hardcore red, blue, purple, whatever. It was kind of just like red, blue, red versus blue. That was it. Yeah. Anyway, a show can reinvent itself. A show can and is able to, but a network doing so would definitely take a little bit of time to get used to the changes. Even even if you change something over time, if you change something immediately, then it would be difficult. All right. And then where does it go from here? Kimmel's got a couple more years. Corden's leaving. I can see Colbert, staying for a couple more years. Fallon, I could see him doing it for the rest of his life. And Seth recently said on Corden's show, but I think it was a joke, that they'd have to pry him away. Like, he hopes to die in the middle of his show. Okay. Let's see. We're not done. This thing is still going. And I'm going down and I'm skimming through the parts that I just want to talk about. They're talking about, this next part is NBC's SNL, and how it's talking, they're coming up on the 50 year anniversary. And after, we've had a lot of different hosts for that. You have Norm, you got Seth Meyers, you got Tina Fey and Fallon, and everybody was kind of different voice. And now there's Chost and Colin Jost and Michael J. First, we're friends. Second, I get one of their names wrong all the time. But if Lorne Michaels leaves, does SNL end? Does Weekend Update end? Does the show change completely? And then everybody else continues their antics. Okay. Anyway, that is a good extensive look from Brian Steinberg of Variety, talking about where late night has been and where it's looking to go next. Not where it is going next, but where it's looking to go next, and how they've expanded on and off the screen, the tiny silver screen. Okay, I really enjoyed that. Listen, good Lord, if you enjoyed this, if you want to see a video version of the show, head to youtube.com/C+comedy, where there are other videos like podcasts, like like LinkedIn Logs, which is the LinkedIn Influencer podcast, where I try to become a LinkedIn influencer, as well as the Constitutionals podcast, which is our premier podcast, where I talk about entertainment business news. You can also watch News Time on there, which is our like the Daily Show, except bad. You want to see interviews with your favorite comedians? You can watch a show called The Interviews, as well as listen to those interviews under the Constitutionals feed on whatever podcast app you want. Most recently talked to Luke Moniz, very nice guy, who's promoting his album Happening in My Head. I've talked about it. This is the third time. I've done this for 3 different shows. Okay. And what else? You can follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at C+Comedy. Follow me at Chad Black White. Rate, review, subscribe to all of this stuff wherever you get your podcasts and wherever you get your YouTube videos. And I'm thinking this is it of the episode. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye.